Hello everyone, today we have the brand new released Jean Grey card. And Jean Grey is a 3 cost, 3 power with the ongoing ability that players must play their first card here each turn if possible. And so this is going to force the opponent into some clunkier play lines if they're running something like a Shuri deck that wants to slam a lot of power, that wants to use a Taskmaster. That's going to basically break that deck wide open. It also makes a lot of other play lines a lot clunkier in the process as well. Now, the idea with our build today is that we want to go with an incredibly low curve. We want to have cards like Angela, Kitty Pryde, Nightcrawler, Jeff that we can put into the Jean Grey location and then utilize one of our lockdown cards in Professor X or Spider-Man to swing another location back in our favor. Now, we could go with counter cards like a Shang-Chi, like an Enchantress, but I wanted to fully lean in to the on-reveal style of this deck and keep the curve incredibly low, because being able to cap out that Jean Grey location by turn 4 is going to be pivotal in being able to use Professor X into a different location when the opponent won't really have as easy of a time capping it out. And so we're going to be jumping straight into a Gold Conquest run. We're going to be taking this through the trenches right off the bat. We'll see how it goes. I've messed around with a few Jean Grey builds, but not this one in particular. I did a couple of other shells, one that had those counter cards, so the Shang-Chi and Enchantress, and it just felt clunkier with the Jean Grey play. And so I don't think it's quite like the meta breaker control that we had before. I think we leverage our Spider-Man and Professor X much heavier, and knowing that they'll play into the Jean Grey location, that's great for our Star-Lord, our Rocket Raccoon, and our Gamora. And so we're going to go ahead and jump straight into battle number 1. Thank you guys as always for being here. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, and first up we have the Sting. We'll see how it goes. Ooh, Sinister London is actually really cool here. And so we're going to be able to do Jean Grey outside of Sinister London. That's going to allow us to force them to play their first card each turn into Sinister London. And that's going to be a little bit more difficult for them to play their ideal lines. Now, they did go ahead and double up on their Kitty Pryde on turn 1, which is kind of interesting to see. We're not going to snap here. It's too early to tell. Let's go with the double Jeff. We're looking for a double Professor X lock. If we can disrupt them heavily enough with the Jean Grey, then maybe we can get an early Professor X lock. Now, Danger Room is unfortunate. We can do Jean Grey. We can move both Jeffs into the Forge. We could do a Nightcrawler next turn, giving us the easier lock, but I don't like moving both Jeffs. We're going to take the 25% chance in Danger Room. I know it's a little bit silly to do that, but that's also going to make them gamble their card every single turn. Whoa, they played Kitty Pryde into Danger Room? That is bold, my friend. Live Moss, I suppose. Let's do our Jeff. We're going to move 1. That way we can make sure that this is fully capped, as long as Rocket sticks here. And if not, maybe the second Kitty Pryde will go over into that location. They do have double Zabus, which is kind of scary, but okay. The Rocket Trigger. Okay, the Rocket Trigger, it is stuck there. That's perfect. The Enchantress comes down, takes out our Jean Grey. Unfortunate. Spider-Ham comes down, hits Professor X. We will get the Spider-Man play, which is, I think, maybe even a little bit better than Professor X, because we'll be able to play there one additional turn. And so let's go ahead and do the double Spider-Man. We can make sure we lock here and here, and I think we will greatly restrict them in the process. So we're going to go ahead and snap into it. I don't know if we should. I don't know if we should have snapped into it or not. That may have been a little bit hasty, but it's fine. It's fine. With this shell, you could take out some of the on reveals of Star-Lord. You could take out Rocket for a Miles Morales. Lean into more of that movement component. But with this one, we're going to be hitting that movement much later in the game, much more often. Ooh, so the triple Kitty Pryde here. The collectors come down. So those will be pretty big, especially as these Kitty Prydes pull back into their hand. And they will be able to fit every single one of them into their hand, so they can play more here. We don't know how many cards they'll generate in these two locations. I think we're 4, 8, 10. 10 brings us to 14. I think that's fine. Go ahead and lock that in. I think we have an okay shot, even if they generate some additional power. Wait, the Sting, is this a bot? Because every single time they played into Danger Room, they played into it off curve, and nothing got destroyed. This was the nicest Danger Room I've ever seen in my life. We will take it. We will take the win with Jean Grey where we can. Although it did force them only into playing their one turn, maybe that was enough to be disruptive enough for us to get a good Spider-Man lock. Who knows? We don't know. We don't know. And even if we didn't get the Spider-Man lock, we could have leaned into like the on reveals, so like the Gamora, but we'll see. Okay. We will take the 2-round victory against the Sting. We'll see the animation into battle number 2. This is gold. And so we'll take the first battle where we can. Let's jump straight away into battle number 2 and see how it goes. All right. First up we have, or I guess next up, we have Darzog. First location is Mojo World. Nebula is pretty good if we eventually get Jean Grey into one of these other locations. We also have our Angela, which is great for our early game. They have a Bast, so I'm thinking bounce. So a Spider-Man could be pretty pivotal for us. Let's go Angela into Mojo World. We're going to play there early. With the Bast, I don't think we worry about a Killmonger, unless this is Cerebro 3, which with them playing Angela over here, it doesn't look like it. Danger Room is kind of wild in as the last location. That was the last location in the last game as well, right? I mean, we'll take it. But now they have to risk every time they want to stop our Nebula from scaling, they have to risk playing over here. We'll gladly take it. We'll do the Jeff, the Nightcrawler. That's going to buff up our Angela. We can move them out eventually if we need to, and if not, then we just leave them there. We have the Rocket Raccoon to lean in on in Mojo World. We don't have Jean Grey yet, unfortunately. We do get Professor X, though, which is extremely promising. Yeah, not my best work, you guys. Okay, they do retreat off of the 1. These locations weren't fantastic for them. We will take the 1 cube. It looks like it's going to be a little bit longer of a battle than the first round. Let's see if we can hold it down. So going against what looks like a bounce deck so far. It could... with the Bast, I don't think it's a Ceratech deck, so I think it's definitely more so like the bounce archetype. Honestly, that's not the worst thing for us to play into. Jean Grey restricts them a little bit, but our Spider-Man and Professor X are going to be so pivotal in restricting where and how they can play. So like knowing a bounce deck, Crimson Cosmos is awful. That is an awful location for them to fight for. And so if we Spider-Man lock the Dream Dimension and then just play our Chavez in the left and move a Jeff, that may be all that we need. They do go Angela into the Dream Dimension, and unfortunately, it is the Dream Dimension. So our 5-cost cards won't be able to be played. We're going to go Jean Grey into Dream Dimension and make them have to play in there. Unfortunately, we're not going to get much else as far as support for the kiln location. Now, I can do like a Star-Lord and then play a Nightcrawler over there, because I'm fairly certain they have to play at least something in that lane. If they're going to try to do a Bishop, they'll have to do their 1 cost first. And so that does restrict how high that power output can end up being. I'm going to do Angela, and we're actually going to throw Nightcrawler into Kiln. Even though we know it's a guaranteed trigger here, I feel like if they're going to play something in Kiln, having the extra plus whatever from Star-Lord is going to be big. They don't. They don't do anything into Kiln. Interesting. So we'll have the Nightcrawler. The Jeff can help assist us over there as well. Interesting. What can they really play here? I think we're okay. Let's do the Nightcrawler. And then on the last turn, we can leverage like a Gamora. If they just have their Chavez, then we can outpower this. We do get the second retreat. Wild game from Darzog. Another 1 cube. We will take them slow and steady. Like, I don't blame Darzog for playing that slowly at all. We probably should have snapped and played it a little bit more aggressively a little bit earlier, knowing the cards that we had in hand. So we have Kitty Pryde on 1. I'm actually going to snap into that. We have our Angela, so that's going to be great after turn 2. We're going to prioritize elevating the Kitty Pryde where we can, and then we'll bump up the Angela secondarily. They do Bast into mid, so all their cards are going to start at 3. The Onslaught Citadel, if they do end up having the Iron Man, which is a pretty common tech in bounce decks right now, if they do, the Onslaught Citadel is tough unless we can lock it out early. So we're going to go Kitty Pryde, Nightcrawler. Next turn, we'll go Angela plus something here. I didn't want to play it into this location in case it turned into like Deep Space or something just awful. But Altar of Death, it will be able to scale their Angela, unfortunately. So let's go Angela and Kitty Pryde to the left. We're going to start fighting for Necrotia and probably just give up the Altar of Death. Now we can sacrifice one of our cheaper Guardian cards if we end up getting like Spider-Man, Professor X, but most likely we're just going to start trying to elevate this Necrotia location. Let's go Jeff. We go Kitty Pryde. I don't think they play for Necrotia. That's a pretty tough location for them. I am going to go Rocket Raccoon over there as well. Okay, so the Falcon does pull up their cards. Angela should get buffed from that, unfortunately. Unfortunately, that interaction now works correctly. The Hit Monkey comes down. I assume the Iron Man here as well. And so we would need Professor X to be able to potentially win this Altar of Death lane. And even that is a little bit sketchy. All right, they didn't snap back, so I'm actually going to do this. I assume that they have an Iron Man, though. Right now we can push... Okay, there's the snapback. As soon as I mention snapback is when it seems to happen. So Darzog, if you're hearing this, it's a good snapback. Having the Angela placed in Altar of Death was big. I didn't want to play there in case it was a negative location like Deep Space, but it turns out that it paid off this time around. So we will take the 2-cube loss, and so just like that, it is a tie game. Going into round number 4, still very, very much anybody's game. We haven't seen Jean all that much, unfortunately. Jean would be, I think, pretty good in this bounce matchup. If we play Jean here, they have a lot of low cards, so it doesn't really get that restrictive, but we'll see. We'll see if we can hold this one down. We have the Kitty Pryde early. We have the Angela early again. Both are fantastic here. And so again, I'm not going to play the Angela into the unknown. We're going to do the same thing we did last time. Fool me once, right? We're going to do Angela into the unknown location. Maybe we can get the same benefit that they got. No, we get the Bifrost. All right, no big deal. That's fine. Everything is fine. Kitty Pryde, Nightcrawler, Nebula. Just go super heavy into the Angela lane. We do have Professor X, so that we can use that on 5. If we get Jean Grey here, we'll do Jean Grey plus... we'll do maybe Jean Grey plus Kitty Pryde. Just the Jean Grey here, Kitty Pryde outside of there. Then we can Professor X lock the outside lane after that. No such luck. Okay. Let's do Kitty Pryde. I guess we do Star-Lord here. We know that they're going to play their Kitty Pryde into the big house this turn. They have to. They also played for Asteroid M. Interesting. I guess it'll end up in the same spot, really. And so this lane, the Bifrost would be a very easy lane to steal with our Professor X, but I don't know. I don't know that it's big enough. No Jean Grey. She's vibing somewhere. Let's go Spider-Man instead. Spider-Man gives us that good padding, that good benefit of the doubt. We may actually also drop initiative here. Spider-Man, we can move Nightcrawler, we can play there and support it later. We have the Kitty Pryde plus Gamora, which is a phenomenal amount of power on the last turn. And they haven't seen our Gamora yet, which could come into play at some point. Right now, it's not necessarily important, but it could be the difference between them playing just Chavez and us being able to steal a big cube game eventually. Kitty Pryde comes down buffing their Angela, and then Beast, actually bounces all of them back in, which is so brutal there. We do have initiative here. Do they go Shang-Chi? If they don't go Shang-Chi, we look silly. But if they do, we look like a genius. Kind of. Maybe not. Not really. Let's go with it. Okay, no, we do get the retreat. We don't know. Some bounce decks have been teching in Shang-Chi. Others have been doing Iron Man. Some have done both. We don't know exactly what we're facing here. We know the core or the main idea, but not the tech slots. And we do get Jean Grey, who has a really nice base card art. I really enjoy like her base art. I wouldn't be like, even if I don't get a variant, like there's some cards that you definitely want a variant for. I'd be fine just having this one as is. So Stark Tower in the left lane. Ooh, Spider-Ham hits our Professor X, which is unfortunate, but we do have Spider-Man. That's actually the preferred one in this matchup, is the Spider-Man, because they don't have any way to like put additional power into those lanes after the fact. So they're gonna play heavy here, right? So Star-Lord, we could make them play into Stark Tower, but I almost want to do like Star-Lord here. We can do Jean Grey, and then on that next turn we could do a couple of cards. Actually, unless we just get a bad draw, we should be able to guarantee that we can cap out New York after dropping Jean Grey. So having 4 energy, we should be able to do like Angela, Jeff, Nightcrawler. We already have 1 cost, so we can only draw Gamora outside of these 1 costs. So we should be able to guarantee that we can lock that one in. And so we get the Gamora now. Okay, that was the one that we couldn't draw. Oh, that's awkward. Okay. If we play here, they're just gonna, I guess they could Beast bounce it. All right, let's Jean Grey in the Stark Tower lane. That's the only way we were gonna be able to get a cheeky Spider-Man playoff. And so it is what it is. It does look like they were gonna start playing for the Onslaught Citadel, and we're not gonna be able to get a cheeky Spider-Man because we got an awful draw. It is what it is. We can do Rocket, guarantee that that triggers. We have the Kitty Pryde that's going to pull back up. Next turn, we can lock in this left lane, but that is locking in our power as well. Ooh, the Beast, bouncing those cards back in. So now they have a lot of flexibility in how and where they play here. Let's go Spider-Man. It's not huge. But then we can always do Gamora, Kitty Pryde on the last turn. Now, we are worried about their Iron Man. They bounced Spider-Ham. They bounced Kitty Pryde. And they bounced Bast, right? So all of those are 0. A Hit Monkey is going to be very, very large. If we do get outscaled in Stark Tower, we can always move it over into New York. Still rough. Spider-Ham comes down, hits the same card once again, which is fine. Bast comes down. We do have Stark Tower very handily locked in after everything is said and done. The Star-Lord, the Rocket Raccoon, just a little bit more than what they could play. And so they do go ahead and play their Hit Monkey here. They did, so their Kitty Pryde is free. They could do Iron Man here, but that's not huge. They did already do their Hit Monkey though. They could do Chavez and Kitty Pryde, which would be pretty big. Okay, so this is 11. So we just need just under 11, right? So 7. We have initiative, so Shang-Chi could actually beat this. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. How confident are we that exactly 12 will win the Stark Tower lane? If they for some reason have a way to buff that, I'm going to cry. But let's move all of our cards into New York. That is where we're fighting for here. We'll see. They move their Beast, they move their Bast, they move their Spider-Hand, they move their Hit Monkey as well. So they don't actually play for that location, so our Gamora does not trigger. Do we still outscale them? It becomes a little bit closer. They do have the Chavez that they play into the Onslaught Citadel. So we do keep the New York location locked in after everything was said and done. Had they played 1 card over there, so maybe like the Kitty Pryde or the Chavez, we actually would have been able to scale Gamora a little bit higher. But it was still very, very close. They go down to 2 bars of health after that really big round for us. Let's go ahead and see if we can close this one out in round number 6 here. The Nebula is big, offsetting the Jean Grey. So let's do Nebula in Westview. We then have Jeff. We can then do Star-Lord as well. Maybe we do Jeff, Jean Grey, and then Star-Lord. That sounds probably like the more ideal order. And this is the last round. I would snap here. We have a pretty good opening hand. They want to use Kitty Pryde every single turn into the Nebula lane, but Jean Grey is going, oh, no. Well, that is not exactly what we wanted to see here. But, I mean, could it be fine? Yeah, probably. It could probably be fine. We can do Jean Grey either into... Maybe we do it into the Nebula lane. And that allows us to next turn do Star-Lord plus Nightcrawler. On turn 5, we could do Professor X into Mojo World, moving the Jeff, moving the Nightcrawler for the extra support. I like that a little bit better. Now, Bounce is going to have a lot of reach into Morag, but hopefully we can outscale them. We also haven't seen a lot of their, like, techie cards. So either Chavez... Ooh, District X is not the worst thing for us here. We're okay with District X. Do we go Forge? Forge is kind of wild, isn't it? Nah, we want a card to be able to move out of the District X lane to play there later on. So let's do the Nightcrawler. We do have Professor X in hand, which is beautiful. They go ahead and fight for Morag after dropping their Kitty Pryde. We are going to be able to just lock in Mojo World with 3 cards. I don't see a way that they can flood that many cards on this upcoming turn. So let's go Professor X, then we move Nightcrawler, then we move Jeff. That gets around us having to play in District X because when we played Professor X, technically we couldn't play into the Jean Grey lane. And so let's go ahead and do this. Our outcome doesn't look fantastic in Morag, and so we're going to have to rely on a top deck here. But I think it's worth locking in the Mojo World location. They do get 2 cards to buff up the Bishop. Kitty Pryde is massive. Beast, a Beast bounce on those 2 allows them to further scale the Bishop. Not so... I think we lose this one, but there's really no point in not fighting for it here. So we would do Forge and then Omega Red. But as it stands, I think we need to do... Because they're going to do at least 3 cards here. So Bishop is going to be more than the 5. It's unfortunate. I don't know. Maybe we overcommitted to the Mojo World location. Who could say for sure? We had 8 power. They could probably get over 8 power. District X was a little bit rough. If we had a Gamora here, would be phenomenal. But we've used all of the cards that were naturally in our hand. And so what do they end up dropping? The Angela and the Kitty Pryde here? Is that what they drop into District X? The Angela is big. And then the Iron Man is huge. And then the Kitty Pryde over to the right. It's unfortunate. But we were already fully committed to this one. They're going to have several of those spin in their direction. That's all right. Let's go ahead and jump straight into the next round. See if we can close this one out. See if we can grab an infinite ticket. This is battle 2. We have one more to overcome. But I do want to see if we can grab an infinite ticket with the newly released Jean Grey. We do get Jean Grey in our opening hand, which is beautiful. I think we do Nightcrawler, Angela, Jean Grey. No, let's do Angela, and then we'll do Jean Grey, and then we have the Nightcrawler to lean in on. Okay, their Spider Ham hits our Gamora. It's unfortunate. We won't be able to scale that as much, but it's okay. At least it didn't hit Spider-Man or Professor X. Let's go Angela. We could do Jean Grey next turn and then Nightcrawler. Something I always kind of find funny, it happened in just one game, is placing Jean Grey into Danger Room. And then everybody has to just go to a casino after that. It's kind of wild. The Great Web. I don't care for the Great Web here. We also get a really high curve. So we have all of our 5 costs in hand. So depending on what pulls over, if Jean Grey pulls over, this becomes iffy very quickly. I don't know. I don't know if we're going to be able to cap out the Jean Grey location or not for turn number 5. We'll see. Wow. Oh my gosh. World Ship is unfortunate. We're going to skip here into a Spider-Man into probably Chavez. That is such a rare location, and it's so unfortunate. They do get Kitty Pryde. Ooh. They pull Spider-Ham back in, but it's a turn too late, so it's perfectly fine. We can do Spider-Man. We can still play there after the fact. They will be locked in, and I don't think they have one built in. We've seen this. We've seen the Iron Man come down from them now. So I still don't know what these other 2 cards are. Could be Shang-Chi. I would say another 1-cost card, but the odds of us not seeing it by this point are so rare. We do get the last retreat. That is an unfortunate location for my friend, but we will take the 2 cubes where we can against the bounce deck. In 7 rounds, we were able to overcome it. It was a tough battle, but we were able to make it happen. Let's take the round 2 victory, getting some boosters on the very underutilized Rocket Raccoon. That gives us battle number 2. Let's jump straight away into battle number 3, see if we can close this thing the rest of the way out. Jumping straight into battle number 3, let's go ahead and queue it up, see if we can bring this home. All right, and we're working on viewer retention. We decided to rotate the camera. We got a sleeping puppy cam behind us, so we're gonna be a little bit further to the left than we normally are. But we got sleepy puppy, and so I think it makes it worth it. Baxter building is big. We have Kitty Pryde, we have Angela, we have Jean Grey. All of these are fantastic for us. Almost want to snap here, not even knowing what kind of deck they're running. I am going to slow it down a little bit. Ooh, Iceman hits Jean Grey, which is so unfortunate. Jumping it up to a 4 cost instead of 5 is pretty detrimental. We could angle to fill up the location before turn 4, so like Angela next turn would be, I guess, Nightcrawler, Kitty Pryde, and then another 1 cost, but then Kitty Pryde will pull back in. So let's just go... let's go Angela here. We're going to skip the Kitty Pryde. We have the Spiderman, so that's a good sign. And we'll go from there. Kiln in the right lane is a good spot for Nebula. And then we could go Kitty Pryde and Nightcrawler. We can eventually move more over there. We can Spider-Man lock this location. I think that's enough for us to snap into. I think just seeing the Iceman, it could either be a discard deck, which they would definitely like Kiln, or it could be a bounce deck. It's very much more likely to be a bounce deck at this point. And they do snap right back. A little bit scary, my friend. Not what we were anticipating, but we will see. We're going to stick this one out. We already snapped. We already initiated it. So we're going into 4 cubes right off. Ooh, Cosmo. I now have no idea what kind of deck you're cooking, my friend. No idea. With the Iceman, with the Cosmo, I can't think of a common meta deck that fits both of those. I think we either go Kitty Pryde or Jean Grey. But I think we go Kitty Pryde. We go Spider-Man on 5. And then move a card over in the night into Kiln potentially. Maybe we get Jeff by that point. We can play directly over there. But I think this is the route that we go with. The Cosmo, ooh, into a Typhoid Mary. Is this a Sarah Ooh. They're going to have a Killmonger. As long as they don't drop it this turn, though, we should be fine. Let's drop the Spider-Man because they won't be able to do any on reveals here. So as long as this lane goes off as intended, we should be perfectly fine. Let's see, though. They do play 2 cards. What do we got? What do we have coming down? The retreat is what we have coming down. It was the puppy cam that did it. I imagine, I don't know, that they were wanting to do maybe a Killmonger, maybe a Taskmaster. I don't know. I don't know what could have been under here. Maybe it's a toxic Sarah list that runs the Shang-Chi, the Enchantress, and we were able to block that portion of the play. Going into round number 2, they are 4 cubes down early on, which is a good sign comparative to the 7 rounds that it took us to take out our last opponent. Maybe we can get in and out of this one with no questions asked. I ran a couple of other versions of this style of deck, of a Jean Grey deck, and they just didn't quite pop the same way. And so if we can grab an infinite ticket, perfect. Ooh, do they have an Electro? No, Scarlet Witch. Okay. I thought they'd be fighting for the Raft, but I'm guessing it doesn't. Ooh, TVA is unfortunate. We have to skip here, and we don't want to skip here. But we have to skip here to be able to fight for the Collapse Mine. We have Jeff on the last turn, but nothing really from the Raft, so we're going to skip here. Hopefully they don't, and we can just steal the Raft with, I don't know, I guess Jeff and then move a Nightcrawler. And then we're hoping for, we've already dropped Star-Lord, so our next best card would be Rocket Raccoon. Rocket Raccoon would be our next best card. I don't think they have a great, I guess Typhoid Mary's pretty big. Ooh, they don't. Ooh. Okay, they don't let the rocks get destroyed. All right, but we're not gonna be able to do anything, so we are gonna retreat anyways. Even a rocket raccoon, I don't think would have done it. I guess it could have given us enough here. No, not really. Nope, no matter what. The lizard play over there was big. We would have had to cap this one out to get them to have that negative benefit. But seeing the lizard, we do know that this is much more likely like the Toxic Sarah that runs Enchantress. Luckily for us, we don't run any ongoings except, I guess, Jean Grey. Jean Grey and then Professor X. We do get Jean Grey in our opening hand. Let's go Nebula into Pet Mansion because we have to. Next turn, we can, I don't know, leverage maybe Angela into a different lane. Nidavellir is interesting. We don't have those counter cards, but being able to get an early Professor X lock would be big. We might also go Rocket Raccoon here, because I assume they want to stop okay, well, they just soak. I was going to say I assume they would want to stop Nebula from scaling, but it turns out they didn't do that. So Jeff is going to be big for us. We can do Jean Grey. We can do Jeff on 4. That will give us the freedom to play our Professor X into Nidavellir. Now, they don't have a super high curve. I think we're okay. Depending on if they play for Nidavellir this turn or not, will dictate where we try to get a Professor X lock. Now, you could drop the Chavez in this deck for like a Daredevil, but with Jean Grey and that restriction that she has, I don't feel like it's all that necessary. Ooh, they pull the Nebula, which doesn't feel like it's that bad. Okay, yeah. Initially, it doesn't feel like it's that bad, but it is. It is most definitely that bad. So now we have Jeff and Kitty Pryde, but Kitty Pryde is going to pull back in. And so we won't be able to get our cheeky Professor X lock because the Nebula pulled out of this middle location. The Typhoid Mary, I keep wanting to call her Bloody Mary tonight, and I don't know why. But the Typhoid Mary in the left lane ends up being pretty big. They could do an Enchantress. They could do an Enchantress, but then they would have to Shang-Chi in this left lane. Cosmo's not what I was anticipating. The Luke Cage. Okay, so they don't need to Enchantress the Typhoid Mary, but the Gamora is unfortunate. Do they have a Killmonger? They have to have a Killmonger slotted in somewhere, right? This would be our best bet. This would be our best bet. I'm not sure we want to do that. I'm thinking they don't have a Killmonger because of the Sunspot, actually. But do they play into the Vibranium Mines? Or do they fight more for Pet Mansion and Nidavellir? Is it worth the 4 cube risk? Like, there's a small chance that we can make this one play out. I think with the Chavez in the left lane, that gives us an extra decent bump. All right, I'm going to retreat later here. We don't get a good feeling about what they're running. I just don't get a good feeling from it. A Hazmat, maybe? Hazmat could be pretty detrimental. I don't know. I'll take the 2. Go from there. All right, so the first location is Olympia here. We do have our Kitty Pryde. We have Nightcrawler. Beautiful starting cards. We have Jeff. We have Kitty Pryde, Rocket. We have the Spiderman. All of those are going to be fantastic for us. They do drop their Sunspot, so we're definitely not concerned about the Killmonger. I don't see building in a Sunspot if you have Killmonger in your deck. We could do... Let's go ahead and do Kitty Pryde. We have to play into Pet Mansion here. Let's do Kitty Pryde and Nightcrawler. And then we can decide where we want to fight for Jean Grey at. Iceman hits our Spider-Man, which is so unfortunate. That's so unfortunate. Astronym will pull Jean Grey over, so that's going to be our Jean Grey lane for sure. Do we go Jean Grey here? Yeah, let's go Jean Grey. Next turn, we can do Angela, Rocket, Jeff, maybe? We could do Kitty Pryde. We have a couple of ways that we can play it. Ooh, and we do get Professor X now. And so instead of going with the other lines that we were lying to ourselves about, we're going to go with the Angela, the Jeff, and then the Nightcrawler. That's going to give us a target in Olympia for our lockdown. Now, I don't think they're going to be able to flood a lot of cards here. We'll be able to do move Nightcrawler, lock in the Olympia lane. We can eventually move Jeff if we need that extra support. But I think we're going to be able to lock them in. Now, we have to worry about a Hazmat play. With having too many cards in a location, we will have to worry about Hazmat being a potential nuisance. But otherwise, I think we're okay. So let's do Professor X first, and then... Oh, no, we've already moved the Nightcrawler. Ooh, well... This became a little bit harder. I wish it was Spider-Man instead. What if we did something like this instead? We have a pretty good lead in Asher Dim. I think they get the read that we're going to try to lock them in. And so they play a 1 cost and then their Typhoid Mary somewhere else. It's a weird read. They could also have Enchantress, right? It's a weird read, but that's what I'm going to go with. They double stack. Oh, no. They double stack into Asher and M. So the... Oh, okay. No, those are huge. Shoot. Man, they snapped back, which convinced me off of my original line, which was the right play. Oh, that feels so awful. Oh, well, that's unfortunate. They have the Lizard. They have the Maximus down. So we know a little bit more about their deck. I can't believe we choked like that. I thought we were... I thought they had us. So I tried to outplay their outplay, and that may cost... that may cost us the gold run. Like that unfortunate read could cost us the run, because that was 4. That was for 4. Such a huge like tempo or momentum grabber. That makes me sick, you guys. They do have the loot cage. We don't have to worry too much about Onslaught Citadel, I don't think. We do get Professor X. So we can do Jean Grey. Next turn we can do Jeff. He'll buff up. We'll eventually Professor X in another lane. If we had to go all in here, we might as well go all in here. It's for 1 additional cube, but I think we have a decent approach. We're not going to make the same mistake of doing the Professor X on 5. Again, now they could alter, knowing that we're not going to do that same thing again. They could alter it this time around. I would hope not, but they could. So we'll see. We'll see what they go with. We get Kitty Pryde, so let's go Jeff. Let's go Jeff. Okay. Jeff and then Kitty Pryde. We can this time move the Nightcrawler to help support the Professor X. We have the Jeff that will eventually be able to move to support the Professor X. This one is a little bit more beneficial for us. They go with the Cosmo. Perfectly fine with the Cosmo play. That will allow them to do like a Maximus or a Typhoid Mary and not have to worry about it being Shang-Chi countered. But we also don't have to worry about the Professor X play. So let's go Professor X now. Let's move the Nightcrawler over. On the last turn, we can do just Chavez here, or we can do Kitty Pryde plus Gamora into the Monster Metropolis lane, attempting to get the highest power card in Monster Metropolis. Let's go with this. Oh no, they alter their line. Maximus and then what, a 1-cost card? Scarlet Witch. Okay, that's fine. Unless it goes into the Isle of Silence, I would cry. Lamentus. This was not meant to be. Oh my gosh. So they do have to play their first card here. But it could be an Iceman, right? Let's do... The highest power is going to be a Rocket. Rocket, and then we'll do Gamora into Monster Metropolis. If they try to fight for this location, we should overcome whatever they have. I think. We don't know about some of their in-game cards. I think this should be enough. A single drop of Hazmat shouldn't do it in Lamentus. 4765. I think this is what we go with. Just this. Wait. No way. No way. We have been getting absolutely handled by an Agatha deck. Kudos. Kudos to them. Oh my gosh, if we lose to an Agatha deck, this is our retirement song. Like, we just don't play anymore. That is beautiful. Necrotia is a great location for them. I'm without words. Not even... Daily Bugle becomes just a nightmare of a location. That could have been awful. Oh, man. So maybe Jean Grey has been working against us this whole time, and we didn't know it. Let's go ahead and go with Angela. Next turn we could do like Star-Lord and Nightcrawler, or Lizard and Nightcrawler. We're looking to get a Spider-Man lock on turn 5, hopefully. Oh no, man. Wild. Absolutely wild. Let's go ahead and snap into it. If ever there was a time to snap into it, we might as well. My goodness, I cannot believe. Okay, they do snap back, so they're saying we're here. We're ready. We're ready to roll. We have the Lizard, we have the Nightcrawler. I think with the Spider-Man lock in Monster Metropolis, we should be able to steal that location, ideally. God. Oh, I have to give this one a run. I have to try this one out. This is just incredible. Such an incredible deck. Let's go Jean Grey. That should give us a better opening for our Spider-Man in Monster Metropolis. And then I think we have a pretty good sizable advantage here. With the Agatha, I don't think they have the Shang-Chi anymore, which was my original read. Oh my goodness. I'm speechless, you guys. We can't Cosmo lock Monster Metropolis. We can Professor X lock it, though. They have to play here. It's a Hail Mary. Now that we know Agatha is there, it's a Hail Mary. We should be able to get the lock in Monster Metropolis, no problem. No questions asked. From there, we go Kitty Pryde and Gamora. No. If this isn't capped out, we know that Agatha has to go into the Daily Bugle, giving us the like the read on being able to do like Gamora or whatever can overcome what they have in Necrotia. I think Jean Grey. That was Jean scary. Scarlet Witch into the Cosmo lane. And it's funny how I don't know if those plays were happening beforehand or not, but it's so scary how we were not able to identify any of those. Now we could try to just go over the top of the Agatha. Don't think I want to though. I'm scared to do that. Let's go Gamora in the left lane. That goes down to 5. Should overcome the Lizard. Unless somehow they don't have Agatha anymore, but this should be a guaranteed win. My goodness, what a trek of a journey. The Jean Grey actually gave us a lot of peace of mind after we knew that Agatha was in their deck. Until that point, we didn't know how to play around it, but being able to play around the guaranteed last turn play in whatever lane you have Jean Grey came in absolutely pivotal here. Yeah, that was so close. We will grab our next Infinity ticket, but kudos to them for absolutely blasting us for like the first 5 rounds with an Agatha deck. Definitely going to be taking that one for a spin. Let me know if you want to see that in the comment section down below. We will grab our next Infinity ticket. I think that brings us up to maybe 5? 5 so far. We have about 3 weeks left to gather more, so we're probably going to end with like 10, just something absurd. But we are going to go ahead and end the video here. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give it a like and a comment down below. And as always, this has been TLSG. Later, guys.